Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Man, today I'm super stoked to be reviewing Yamaha's 1986 FJ1200. I purchased this bike recently and it is in excellent original condition. It has 9,200 original miles on it, and I have gone through this bike from front to back and done everything from new tires on it to all new fluids in the bike. New air filter in it. The air filter is oiled. It's a K&N unit. In a little bit here, we're going to get out on the open road and see what this bike is like to ride. So I'm very excited about that. If you're like me and you like the classic bikes from the 1970s and 1980s, please like and subscribe as I feature lots of classic bike content on this channel. First off, let's go over a couple of the FJ1200 specs here. The FJ1200 was based heavily on the FJ1100 motorcycle from '84 and '85, and it featured a bored-out FJ1100 motor. The displacement on this bike is 1188 cc's. The motor is a 16-valve, air-cooled engine. It has a large oil cooler on it as well. The horsepower rating on this motor is 116 horsepower and 72 foot-pounds of torque. In testing by Cycle World magazine in 1986, the FJ1200 ran the quarter mile in 11.23 seconds at 122 miles an hour, and it posted the quickest top gear 40 to 80 mile an hour roll-on of any of the bikes of the time period. That's really impressive because that's going up against the VMAX, the Suzuki GS 1150 ES, and the V65 Magnus. The frame on the FJ1200 is a perimeter unit. It is a steel frame on the bike, and this was kind of all the rage. This was in vogue at the time that the bike was produced. All of the sport bikes of the time period had the perimeter steel frames. Only the very racy GSXR from Suzuki featured an aluminum frame on it at that time. The bodywork on the FJ1200 was very much like the FJ1100, but there were some differences. The belly pan was modified to give better airflow around the engine, as well as the windshield on the bike was raked much more steeply back instead of the FJ1100's taller, more blunt windscreen. And what that does is it allows very smooth airflow over the top of the fairing. I don't get any helmet buffeting at all when I drive this bike. It has very nice wind protection for the driver. And again, you're in clean air, so there's no helmet buffeting, and that can be really fatiguing over time. I previously owned Suzuki's GS 1150 ES, and that was a nice bike, and it had a very tall fairing on it, and it gave decent wind protection, but the turbulence over the top of the fairing was almost deafening at highway speeds, and it was very fatiguing to ride for long distances. Looking at the front of the bike, the FJ1200 has vented disc brakes, and it has dual piston calipers acting on those brakes. It's got a very nice braking system. The front suspension has anti-dive on it, and it also has three-way adjustable spring preload and multi-adjustable rebound damping as well. Right now I'm running the springs in the second position, so they're in the middle of the adjustment. I'm also running the preload in the middle position. The FJ1200 features a hydraulic clutch on it, and the clutch action is easy and consistent with that. The FJ1200 features a 5.8 gallon fuel tank, so that gives you plenty of range on this motorcycle. It has a very comfortable seat on it, and this also allows you to put on a lot of miles. Although the FJ1100 was really designed as a hardcore sport bike, by the time the FJ1200 came around, there were several sport bikes from the other manufacturers that were much more track-focused, very sharply focused bikes, such as the GSXR from Suzuki and Kawasaki's Ninja 900 and the 1000. And whereas the frame and the suspension and the basic bike did not change that much from the FJ1100 to the FJ1200, because of the competition, this bike was classified more as a sport touring bike than a hardcore race bike by 1986. The transmission on the FJ1200 is a 5-speed unit. It is a very slick shifting, nice shifting unit. They upgraded that from the unit that was in the FJ1100. This bike features dual exhausts, and they are in the black chrome. This bike features 16-inch wheels, both front and back. That's another thing that was in vogue at the time. At the rear of the bike, the FJ features an aluminum box section swing arm, and it has a large vented disc brake in the back, and that is acted on by a dual piston caliper. The rear suspension is adjustable for spring preload and rebound damping as well. I'm a tall guy at 6'4", but the seating position is nice. It's comfortable. I do have a little bit of a reach to the bars. As far as legroom goes, the detents in the tank here for my knees are high enough for me, which is really nice. Some bikes, my knees hit up above that line, which is uncomfortable. The foot pegs on this bike are set low enough that they give you some decent legroom, but they're high enough that you're not dragging the pegs in aggressive riding. All right, enough talk. What is this bike like to ride out on the road? I'm going to gear up. I'm going to bring the camera along. Let's find out together. Let's ride.
I am currently riding Yamaha's mighty 1986 FJ1200. This bike was designed to compete with Suzuki's GS1150 ES and Honda's 1000 Interceptor and Kawasaki's 900 Ninja. As such, it has very sporty bodywork on it. This bike has that fearsome 1200cc motor. It's a 16-valve motor, and it just has power all over the place. There's no need to really wind it out, but if you do, it is shockingly quick. This bike also has a lot of features that were in vogue at the time, and that includes the 16-inch wheels on it. It also includes anti-dive on the front suspension. This bike has the dual piston calipers, front and rear. Oh yeah. Even though this was an air-cooled bike in an age when most of the competition was going to the liquid-cooled machines, this bike actually outlasted all of the bikes previously mentioned and continued on almost unchanged into the 90s. And it transitioned from being a hardcore sport bike into being a very capable sport touring bike. The suspension is plush and well controlled. That has just fearsome acceleration. Transitions smoothly into the corners. And I have to watch myself on a bike like this because it just makes it very easy to go very quickly. And that speaks to just how good this bike is. It has an awesome, very torquey motor. It has neutral handling. The seating position has a little bit of a reach to the bars, but it's comfortable at higher speeds. It's very nice. The instrument layout on this bike is very legible, and it's shockingly modern looking. I love the center mounted tack and the big fuel gauge and the big speedometer, and everything is just right there where it's easily read. The mild lean into the wind and the good wind protection make this bike very nice at high speeds. One of the things I notice on this FJ is that I get a significant amount of engine heat on a warm day. And it's mostly on my knees and kind of under my thighs where I feel the engine heat. This would be actually a nice thing on a cool day, and I anticipate it being pretty nice as we get into the fall riding season. But I definitely get more engine heat than I do on my other standard style air-cooled muscle cruisers and sport bikes of the early 80s. Cruising down through at just over 60 miles an hour, I'm revving right around 4,000 RPM. There's a little bit of a buzz through the handlebars from the four-cylinder motor, but it's not bad. This would not be fatiguing to ride. It's a nice, comfortable place to put on lots of miles. The seat on this bike is all-day comfortable, and it really complements the ergonomics on the bike. The hydraulic clutch has a nice light pull to it. The brakes on this bike are good. They give nice control under braking. And they work well with the plush but well-controlled suspension. If I upgraded to Spiegler brake lines on the front, I would probably also upgrade the springs to give it a little bit less propensity to dive. But as it's set up now, it's a really nice compromise. If you look at the production run of the Yamaha, it was produced from 1986 and into the 90s, and it's really the ultimate air-cooled sport bike.
Alright, man, with a lot of fun. It's really interesting to ride this bike and to experience it. I have a lot of the classic 80s sport bikes, the early 80s sport bikes, a lot of the air-cooled machines, and I can definitely feel that heritage in this bike. It's got that wonderfully torquey 1200cc motor in it. It pulls from idle to redline. It pulls very strongly and very smoothly. It is not at all abrupt on and off throttle. Very smooth throttle transitions on the bike. It has very nice brakes for the time period. It also has very good suspension, and the suspension on this bike is plush and well controlled at the same time. It's a very good compromise for a bike that will allow you to do really almost any type of riding. And while the FJ1200 really could not compete with a GSXR or a Ninja 1000 at the racetrack, in the real world, out on real roads, this bike was a better all-around machine, and it allowed you to do a much broader range of riding, and it wasn't so focused as the hardcore sport bikes of the time. The FJ1200 is a deceptively quick motorcycle. It is so smooth and so easy on the road that I didn't expect it to do as well as it did in the 40 to 80 mile an hour Top Gear roll-on test, but it's actually the quickest classic bike that I've tested from 40 to 80 miles an hour in Top Gear by almost 2 seconds. That's a shocking margin of victory there. And that kind of confirms the Cycle World statement that this bike was the quickest bike in the roll-on contest of any bike of the time period. The odd thing is, it doesn't feel edgy. It's a very relaxing ride, and it's a very smooth ride, and it's a bike that you can just put lots and lots of miles on. I would definitely make the argument that the FJ1200 is the ultimate air-cooled sport bike, given its fearsome motor, its ease of use, its broad range of riding ability, its excellent instrumentation, excellent suspension and brakes. There's just no other air-cooled sport bike that could keep up with it. And this bike competed successfully with the liquid-cooled bikes, the next generation of bikes, as an air-cooled bike, and it outlasted any of the other air-cooled sport bikes. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If there are any FJ1100 or FJ1200 fans out there, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.